Well, this is going to be fun. This is a layout tour, Geoffrey Carter's layout.
I've been wanting to get over to his layout. It's really cool.
Well, it's been on our to-do list.
Right.
No, it's now on our to-done list.
Well, for now, I'd like to go back again, too.
It's a huge layout.
It is.
And he opens it, the NMRA, and he's a very prominent member in the local NMRA. And they like to do a Christmas open house. And so he's opened it, but it's such confined walkways here, he's doing it by appointment only.
And that's a good idea.
We've seen some pretty interesting systems that people have put in place to manage crowds.
Right.
Because quite often with a layout, it's just you don't have a lot of room, and suddenly 30 people all show up, and what are you going to do about that?
Exactly.
So this appointment-only thing was a grand idea, and it worked out really well. How long have you been building model railroads?
I started model railroading 8 years old. At Christmas time, they sent us to bed about 8 o'clock, which is normal for kids to go to bed. And I'm sitting there laying in bed trying to go to sleep, and I hear this, woo, and I said, oh boy, a train. So we wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. We run from the bedrooms, through the kitchen, to the living room. There's no damn train. And I am really bummed out. Finally, about 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, my mom says, Jeff, go get some breakfast. I don't want any breakfast. I'm hungry. Get in there and get some breakfast. On the kitchen table was a train. All my siblings knew about it, but didn't say a word. So that's when I started. It was a 9L 027. 5025 was the Hudson, I think. 464. Anyway, that's we put that on a 4x8 sheet of plywood in the bedroom, and I built a tunnel out of paper mache. I come home one day and the dog had eaten it. So anyway, when I became a teenager, they went in a box, and I never saw them again.
Yeah.
And then about early 20s, I bought a little Tyco set, HO Tyco set, put that on a piece of plywood, slid it under the bed, and that stayed for a while. We were in the Navy at the time, so moving around, so it went in and out of boxes. And finally, it just never came out of the box again. Then I got a son. And the son gets old enough, and I says, let's start building trains. So we built another train set on a enclosed patio, and we had trains running. And I need a grandson, and the grandson comes of age, about 3 years old, and he falls in love with Thomas the Train. So we have to start building trains. So I started building a small layout in an 8x12 bedroom, and got train and trailer and all that. So, and that's when I got really started into model railroading, big time. And that's when I bought my first DCC locomotive. An Athearn Genesis F3 was my grandson at that time. By the time we got those built, I let him run the trains, and he would get mad at me if I went too fast with the trains. About that time, Scott Perry came moved to this area, and I got cornered by him at a train show down in the Southtown, and joined the NMRA, and it's been going since then. So then we moved to this house, and we had to build a big layout.
Bigger layout. Yeah. Wonderful. Most of the groups that signed up to come over here were families, and families with young kids.
Right, they take an interest in railroading too.
Well, they always have.
Right.
And Jeff's been one of these members of the local NMRA that are really pushing to get kids involved in the hobby. And they've got programs like the pizza box layouts that have just been amazingly successful.
Oh, I wish I was a kid again. They just look like a lot of fun.
And they've had, I forget the number, it's well over 1,000 kids.
With a waiting list.
Yeah. So it's just amazing. But not only during the open house here does Jeff have families come in, but then he's got a small switching layout, and he challenges kids to switch the cars around. And if they manage to pull off the switch list, they get a candy.
Oh, how fun.
not only is the layout really large, as you can see, it's on 2 different levels.
Right.
And then the 2 levels are connected together by a very large helix at the one end of the peninsula.
Oh my.
And from here, then the trains can go from the lower railroad to the upper railroad. And down here on the lower railroad is a huge storage yard. And I think this is really important because, well, it's just fun to collect different pieces of rolling stock. And then what are you going to do with it? So the idea of having a really large storage yard on the lower level, that's just a great idea.
Well, this looks really realistic. I love how he's done the water.
And it's such a fun little thing.
Oh,
People
yeah.
canoeing the river.
Oh, yes, and fishing and you name it.
I love to see these little scenes like that. Speaking of scenes, check out the Utoko oil platform here.
Oh, wow.
I love seeing the old Utoko, Utah Oil Company.
Right.
One of the really fun things that Jeff has done here is a lot of the businesses on the railroad are named after friends and family members.
That's always fun to do.
Carl's Distributing. It's my wife's dad, my father-in-law. He had a business called Carl's Distributing, although it wasn't like that. It was a panel truck working out of his garage. He delivered beer nuts and pretzels and stuff to the local beer joints, to make the guys thirsty so they want to buy more beer. And then we have here Weiss Air Conditioning. My oldest daughter's husband, when he was younger, him and his brothers had an air conditioning company. So then we got J&D Tibor. That's Josh and Derek Tibor. That's 2 of my grandsons. And then over here we got IK&M. That's my youngest daughter and her family, Ivan, Christina, and Max. Ivan, Christina, and Max. So that's how that was. And this station here, McCod with the little whistle stop between Pocatello and Twin Falls. And it's not there anymore. But that's where my dad started at 18, sweeping the floor, working for the UP. It was during the war. A few months later, he was a telegraph operator at that station. A few months later, he was a station agent.
So that was war era?
During the war.
During the war,
Yes.
yeah. People were advancing and changing jobs like crazy.
Yeah, I mean, everybody else has gone off to foreign countries to do stuff. And anyway, he hopped around in southern Idaho for years and ended up being a dispatcher at Salt Lake Dispatcher Station, which used to be right underneath the North Temple Viaduct.
It's such a very, very large layout, and I was very interested in just how he went about doing the track plan. We've been talking a lot about track plan on the Tuesday show, and he used computer software. And what program did you use?
Third Planet. That's 3RD. Plan It.
Oh, planet.
Yeah. So it goes different iterations. What can I do? What can I do? And after about 5 years of doing this over and over again, I finally came up with the final plan.
On really close examination, you can see that he has followed a lot of the basic rules that we've been talking about on the Tuesday show. Any opposing curves, right followed by left or whatever, there's a good section of tangent between the two. And even on his large loops, they're not completely loops. There's a section of tangent to avoid having joints in the middle of your curve. That way you can place your joints in the tangent part of the track.
Back up. Back up to it.
Well, we finally got to see Jeff's railroad.
Right. I wouldn't mind sneaking back in there again, though, someday.
Absolutely. I feel like we missed a lot of it.
Oh, yes. On this size, there are going to be things you miss.
And so when we get back here, or we just visit another railroad, you wouldn't want to miss that.
No.
So if you're not a subscriber to the channel, please subscribe. Doesn't cost anything. All you have to do is click on the subscribe button, which is coming right up. The blue button. Zoink! Right there, the blue button. Well, we're not sure how you found this video on the internet. We sure hope you didn't find it boring. And we will see you here on Tuesday.
Right.
With some more track planning. Okay. Bye-bye.
We'll see ya.